Hey, I just thought I'd do a quick video here and talk a little bit about the notion of succession planting and another way to go about succession planting, which in a certain sense is more simple. So what's succession planting? That's, if you want to get certain kinds of greens in particular, that's usually what it's used for. They grow, they get to a certain size, and you can harvest some, and then when it gets too hot or when they've just gotten to a point of maturity, they'll go to flower and they don't taste good anymore. And so the way to get around it, if you want to keep getting a supply of that thing, is you just sow a different set of seeds every 2 weeks, and then they'll come in at different stages. And that's one way to do it. But the thing about sowing seeds is that typically when you sow seeds, the seedlings have to be nursed, right? Their roots don't go down very far, and you have to be watering them all the time, or if you miss a day or two, it could get really hot and they could really suffer, or some pests could come in and take them all out. So you have to be very vigilant when the seedlings are really young, and it's a bit tedious. So another way to go about doing that is to, like I did, you plant a bunch under glass really early in the season, before the pests are even out, and you plant them tight, right? And then you move them. You leave some where they are and you move some. And what happens is that the plants that have been moved are set back a bit. A lot of plants don't like being moved. Spinach, and that's the example I'm going to use today. Spinach hates being moved, and it suffers as a result of it. But it will bounce back and it will start to grow again. So what happens is you get the spinach you had growing in place that hasn't been moved, and you get the spinach that you did move. And the spinach that was moved, I'm just using spinach as an example here, the spinach that was moved will come in at a different time than the spinach that didn't get moved. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So here's a garden where I started spinach under glass, way back in March, early March. The spinach has been growing since early March. And the great thing about planting it in March is like you water it like once every 2 weeks. It just doesn't seem to, at least in this part of the world, in March it's just so darn cold. It doesn't get too hot in there, but it's the right temperature for spinach. Of all the things I started really early in March, the spinach seemed to do better than, spinach and lettuce did better than anything else. The kale did well, but then when I took it out too soon, it doesn't seem to like some of the hard frost. We were getting hard frost even a week or so ago here. What was it? I was out camping a week ago, and the ice froze in my coffee mug overnight. You can see here that some of these, let me just zoom in a bit here. Some of these are big and lush, right? And I can't wait to eat these. They look so good. I'm going to have some tonight, actually. I'm going to take, the way I harvest these is you just take like a leaf or two off each plant. And then you'll get, a good bowl of spinach. And if you harvest that way, that's what they call cut and come again harvesting. I have a video on that I did last year if you want to look for that. Maybe I'll put it in the box at the end, or the ones that come up. But these are the ones that weren't moved. They're growing where the seed was planted. These ones that look pathetic, that are small, oh dear. Some sort of weed. Actually resembles I hope that's not what it looks like. Looks like Japanese knotweed. I hope not. Hopefully it's just pigweed. Anyway, the ones that were moved, and these were all at the same size when I moved these smaller ones, but you can see they're a third the size, right? That's how much spinach doesn't like being moved. They have not grown. So these were all about the same size when I moved them. And now the ones that were moved, they really haven't grown at all. All they've done, you can see one here where the leaves have yellowed. You can pinch those off because those leaves have been sacrificed to save the plant. Right? If you got the time, you can go around and pinch those all off. They don't look very good. But these should come back, right? And they should be okay. But these will get big at a different rate of these. So it's almost like these were planted 2 weeks after these, even though they were all planted at the same time. And I didn't have to nurse these. I mean, all I did was I picked an evening before it was going to rain, and I plucked them all out and stuck them all back in. That's all I did, right? So that it only took about, you saw me, I did it right there on the camera, it took about 20 minutes or something like that. And that's all I needed to do that sort of succession planting. So it should work out that way. And I do that sort of thing with a lot of greens like that. Anyone that you can start early, and then you divide them up later. Just to follow up, here's the state of the spinach that I moved about a week ago from one of my cold frames, and I put them in the end of this box. And you can see they've suffered a bit from having been moved. Right? They're still alive, but they have suffered. I'm going to go pick off all the compromised leaves today and just add them to my salad. The leaf gets a bit compromised and the bugs will attack it immediately. You can see this, well, it comes across here. That leaf right there, it's not as deep a green as the other ones. And you can see it's been attacked, right? And that's what'll happen. The bugs will just, they'll tend to go after the stuff that's a little bit more compromised. So I'll just pick all those off and make it easy for the plant, right? The roots are having a, what's going on, right? The roots are having a hard time supplying the plant with everything it needs. So some of the leaves are being sacrificed. The big leaves that draw the most from the roots are being sacrificed so that the plant can go on. Right? That's just how they've adapted to survive. So not a big deal. You just pinch off those big leaves and eat them, or throw them in your compost bin. Here in this cold frame, I've got all this. I think it's called Black Beauty, I believe, Black Magic, perhaps. It's a variety of kale that's like a lacinato kale. So it's all planted very closely together, and these all have to be pulled out of here and moved. But I can't do it today because it's too sunny. I'm going to wait till we've got a half decent rainy day. The very next one, I have to move them. But see how tightly packed they are. I mean, each one of these plants should be a foot apart from the other. That's the spacing they need when they get to full size. They need a foot apart. So this little area, right? This is a 2x6 cold frame, and it's about half full of kale. That amount of kale will easily fill a 4x10 garden box, probably more than that actually. I'd probably be struggling to find spaces for it all. And when it's moved, it'll probably won't grow for a week or two while it recovers, but it will recover, and it'll just come in when it comes in. Anyway, just a couple thoughts on my take on succession planting, and I find it really tedious and annoying to do. I find doing it this way, where you plant a bunch sort of in a small area, so it's easy to manage, and then you divide some of them up, and that way some of them are just delayed a couple weeks. It achieves that anyway. Also, you know, especially if you have a large garden, I don't want to eat the same thing all summer long. Like I'm happy with the fact that, you know, I'm going to get spinach for about 3 weeks to a month, and then my spinach will be done. Maybe I can plant some again in the fall. But I'm happy to move on, because once the spinach starts wearing out, the kale really starts to come along, right? And the lettuce is coming in right now, and other kinds of kale will come in later in the summer. And of course, then we've got peas and green beans and all those things. I enjoy the seasonality of things and how different things arrive and become available at different times. I don't want to eat spinach all summer long. I don't want to eat one kind of lettuce all summer long. I want to have different things arriving at different times. It's just more interesting in terms of the way my palate works. And it's also easier from a gardening point of view, because you don't have to have a schedule and a routine. I mean, if you love schedules and routines, then succession planting's for you. But I don't. I like just having a system that's sort of like jazz, right? I like it all just working itself out. You throw a lot of stuff out there, and you get lots of different things at different times, and you just adapt your eating habits to what's available, almost like an animal, right? You're just adapting your diet to what's available at the time. I really enjoy that aspect of gardening a lot. It can be overwhelming at times because you're like, how am I going to eat all these tomatoes? What am I going to do with all this zucchini, right? But it's also fun. It's also what makes it interesting to do. And you learn how much you should plant. Don't plant too much. Certain things, you don't want to have 30 zucchini plants because you're going to have buckets of zucchini all at the same time. That's a bit of a problem. Well, anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Hope that gave you some good ideas. And subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.